Good afternoon. Welcome to the third of 5 sessions in the Postnatal Depletion and the 4 Pillars of Health webinar series presented by MOMinar Fitness. I am Alexandra Sampson, the owner of MOMinar Fitness, and we're delighted that you are joining us today. Just a brief overview of MOMinar Fitness if you're not familiar with the company. We are focused and geared towards working mothers who are looking to find ways to stay or stay fit, reinvent their fitness regimen, or get fit. Understanding that really mothers in general, but of course working mothers have unique challenges that might make it more difficult to balance motherhood and career. So we focus on this goal through a number of avenues, such as fitness events, such as the webinar that you're participating in now, as well as other fitness programs, such as virtual boot camps, Fit Mom Night Out events, and other programming. And before we move into today's presentation, I just want to briefly show what I've been calling the dream team here, the women who have graciously volunteered their time to present in the webinar series. I won't go into detail about each of them. Hopefully you've been tuning into the webinar series. If you have not, each session is recorded, so I invite you to find those recordings on our YouTube page and take a listen to some of the prior sessions. Hopefully you'll join us for future sessions as well. But this is just photos of all the women who are participating in the series. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our presenter for today. Today's topic is purpose. So we're discussing the 4 pillars of health, and we're in our second pillar, which is purpose. And I think this is a particularly important one because a lot of women identify with some of the other pillars as correlating to health, sleep, activity, nutrition. But I think oftentimes we forget or neglect purpose, which is really maintaining your sense of self, your own self-identity, continuing to develop and maintain your own goals as a mother. And so today we have Jen Roberts, who's going to be talking with us. Jen is a career and leadership coach. She's the owner of Conspire Coaching and Consulting LLC, and she has a wonderful program that she will talk more about named Women Leaders Emerging, and it's a phenomenal program that focuses on coaching circles, bringing women together to do in part of what we'll be talking about today. So at this time, I'm going to turn the program over to Jen.
Thank you so much. As Alex said, my name is Jen Walper Roberts, and I am the owner and founder of Conspire Coaching. And I work with women who are mission-driven and who are mainly going through or at the cusp of important transitions in their lives and careers. So people come to me sometimes when they are having their personal life is changing and they're trying to work out what that means for their career, or within the context of being a whole person and a whole woman, they're looking to think about how they want to advance and how they want to position and how they want to lead from their strengths and from who they are. So we're talking about purpose today, so I thought I would share with you some of our core purposes here at Conspire. Our mission is to conspire with mission-driven women to lead, succeed, and thrive in their careers, lives, and organizations. And I won't read the whole vision to you, but essentially what we are up to is to unlock the potential energy and the potential contributions of women all over the globe. And our working theory is that there's some amazing talent out there that doesn't get unleashed because of how complex our lives are and how kind of stuck some of our organizational models are. And through these coaching communities, we are looking for ways to challenge that, rework, make powerful requests, and reorganize our lives so that we can contribute our talents and thrive and have the family lives that we want and not be exhausted as we try and do all of that. So I'll tell you a little bit about me and how all this came to be. So my background is in nonprofit leadership. I was an executive of a nonprofit in New York and then in London. And then when I returned to the States, I worked for a consulting firm where I was doing coaching and leadership development for community organizations across the country that receive federal grants. And it was a pretty intense schedule. I love the work. I got to do great work with executive directors and middle managers all over the country who were really changing communities, improving communities. So you see up there on the slide, there's a woman sitting at her computer with her pump. So I had one child at the time, and my crazy schedule meant that I was pumping underneath the desk in my office, not making very much milk, feeling pretty stressed. And I did that for a little while, but it wasn't, I still love the work, but it was really, I found it really tough. And this depletion webinar series really spoke to me because I just remember how I felt, and my energy was really low, and I'm a really energetic person. Well, then fast forward just a little bit, and I found out I was pregnant with twins, which was a blessing in disguise because I had already knew I needed to change the way things were going in order for me to really live who I am and successfully be a mom. So the blessing in disguise was I was put on home rest. I had to work from home for a while by doctor's orders. And I decided to get my coaching certification, and I did it entirely remotely because I just knew that the kind of consulting work I loved was really coaching, and people had always come to me just naturally about their careers and lives. And so I thought, I'm going to be a coach. I'd hired a coach in the past. I love coaching. So I learned through coaching how I could do things, how I could be part of a community virtually and get such a deep experience. When I started working with private clients, they all tended to be very passionate, mission-driven women who I admired so much, who are all struggling with feeling depleted and losing their passion, not knowing where to focus their energy, especially when there was big transitions going on in their lives. And within a few months of having my private coaching practice, I decided that I really wanted to focus on having community coaching, small group coaching of women that would be accessible to them. So the work happens at 8:30 at night. People can put their kids to sleep. And we now have over 100 people have gone through our small group coaching program that are 6 people per group. And so I'm really proud of it because I feel like it's a movement of women who are refusing to accept exhaustion and who are choosing to live a life that's really full of purpose in ways that are reasonable for moms and for women with all different kinds of complex, demanding lives. So that's why I think Alex reached out to me for this topic of purpose within the 4 pillars of thinking about how to protect yourself from the depletion that we were talking about in the first session. And I, as a mom of 3 young kids, I will say that being part of these coaching communities over and over again, even though I don't get enough sleep for sure, I definitely still need to work on actually getting sleep, but it keeps me really focused on what really matters to me and to feel that I have choice in my life. So I want to first acknowledge, before getting into having time to think about purpose, having time to think about your contribution to the world, there's some basic needs that have to be met. And I think as women, it's important to forgive ourselves if we're not attending to some of our higher needs of personal growth and fulfillment and satisfaction and self-actualization when we're sleeping 1 or 2 hours in 1 or 2 hour spurts and really in the thick of new momhood. And I think sometimes it's just accepting that chapter and that your focus is just taking care of yourself physically and your child for those first few months. And then as you start to kind of move out of survival mode, being realistic about your time and thinking about how much time you want to devote to those things that do contribute to your personal growth and self-actualization, and what's the right structure in the new world that you're living in. So one of the main benefits of thinking through who you are, what you want, and how you want to lead and how you want to be is that you gain back a sense of ownership of your life. So a lot of people generally, but especially new moms or moms who've been at it for a while and feel the sense of losing themselves and just attending to everybody else and being on a schedule and losing their passion. So one of the things I love about coaching work, but any work where you're working, even if it's on your own, about working, defining your purpose, is that it puts you back in the driving seat. And so the process, whether you do it with other people, with a friend, by yourself, the process that I'm going to walk you through today are the kinds of questions and exercises you can do with yourself to help put you back in the driver's seat so that you have a feeling of locus of control, that you are the person who's driving your life, which generally just helps everybody feel better and more energized. So the way that I recommend approaching this work is starting very internal, getting really deep about fundamentally, what is your mission in the world? What do you want to have happen in the world as a result of you being in it? And then the things that are in the coaching domain, which are really things that you have control over, that you have choice in, they start with your internal resources and really understanding what those are. And then moving out to your external resources, and I'll go through all of these in detail, all with this backdrop of seeing areas of your life where you have choice. Because choice is what gives you energy. Choice is what gives you freedom. And choice is what makes you feel like you're not trapped and having everybody else drive your life for you. So let's start with the internal work of mission. So there's different ways of speaking about mission. When in the context of personal development work and coaching, when we talk about mission, we're talking about just the most essential expression of who you are. So there's two ways that you can go about thinking about your own mission. A great way is to do some free writing or meditation on some peak experiences. So think about the times where you were having a moment of flow. It doesn't necessarily mean it was an easy time. It could have been some time at work or some project that you were working on where it was stressful and you were working really hard, but that you felt in your inner being that what you were up to was such an expression of who you are and what your strengths are that you just were buzzing and in your groove. It could have been the kinds of people you were with. You could recall a time when you just were aware that the person that you were being was the person that you most liked to be, that felt genuine, authentic you. So I'll just give you a moment right now to think about, what do you think maybe one of those peak experiences was for you? So to follow up, so make a note of that if you're listening right now, and to follow up on it, what I would encourage you to do is do some free writing, and really bring that scene to life, and think about what was happening, what were the adjectives, what were the sensations, and what were you contributing, what were you causing to happen all around you. And those are some of the words that you'll want to put in your mission. And then another less metaphoric way is to just do some thinking about the kind of impact, the kind of outcomes you enjoy causing that really give you moments of inspiration and what you're really drawn to. So defining your mission helps you have a sense of purpose no matter where you are and no matter what you're doing. So my mission is to hold a space for interconnectedness and reveal oneness. So, and the one that I think is even the most important is about interconnectedness. It's always been important to me to be someone who brings people together and to create community. And so one of the huge humps I got over when I made my major transition from having 1 kid to 3 kids was that I could show up almost anywhere and think, is there an opportunity here for me to cause interconnectedness, even if it's in a really small way? Because just by doing that, I was able to get back in touch with who I am. So I'm going to give you examples of all of these things. I won't go too much into myself. But I also find for all of this work, finding images to match the words that you craft will really help bring it to life for you. So the next tool I want to introduce to you is another internal tool, and it's about defining the values that are top priority for you in this chapter that you're designing, that you are in the driver's seat for. So I love writing values with slashes because I think most of us, what's important to us is a little bit complex, but we know what we mean ourselves. And slashes give you the freedom to kind of really drill down on what exactly is important to you about each value. You might also just think about this as different aspects of your life that are really important to you. So what's key here is that you take some time to write these all out, but that you also then choose in this chapter which are the aspects of life that are most important to you, that you want to attend to the most. So that means that your number 7 is still something important to you. It's still there, but you're choosing that you spend less time on number 7 in this chapter and that you invest more time in numbers 1, 2, and 3. And then in a few months, in a few years, you might say, you know what, now I've done a great job on 1, 2, and 3, but it's time to rebalance. I need 7. I need sleep, stillness, and solitude to jump up to number 2. I need to make more space for that in my life. But the point about doing this is that you acknowledge what's important to you and you feel more in control because you're choosing your prioritization very, very explicitly and very powerfully. So again, I encourage you to use some pictures. The top 3 highest prioritized values in my life for the next 6 months, and I like to do chapters in 6 months or 1 year, are to be joyful among the chaos of my crazy, very tiny home with lots of tiny people in it, that I am connected to my community, a couple communities that are really important to me, and that I'm doing women supporting women work that I do, and that I am someone who creates possibilities, get things done, and activate ideas. And those are the things that really keep me energized in this current chapter, and that I really want to pour my time and energy into. So just pause for a moment and think about what you think are your top 3 values in this chapter, and make a little note for yourself. And then you can go back and work on that after this session. So another internal piece, another internal tool that I want to give to you is defining a vision. So a vision is something that is a vision of the life that you are living into. So give yourself a 5-year vision, or a 2 or 3 year vision, and you can start by saying, in 2 years from now, XYZ, and describe the possible future. What you want to do is use all of your senses. You make it as sensory, smell, taste, touch, feel, visual, everything, so that you can really bring it to life, because your vision is like a magnet that pulls you into what's possible. And when you really get it down on paper, it should light you up. You should be so excited by it. And so one tip on visioning is that it should feel slightly out of reach. Like, it doesn't need to be realistic. It's not like in 5 years I will have gained a promotion and I will be doing, it doesn't have to be this like dry statement of what's realistically going to happen in 2 years. It's an emotional tool to help you really understand what you really, really want on a pretty deep level, in all aspects of your life. So I encourage you to do it as creatively as possible. So if you're a writer, do writing. If you are a collager, or you like art, you make a collage or a painting. It doesn't have to be words, but put in it all the elements that you envision in the whatever chapter it is that you're defining 2 years from now or 5 years from now. Another thing I'll say about vision is it can be a little bit surreal. So you could have seemingly contradictory elements in your vision. You could be living in 2 different countries in your vision because it's your vision. And so it helps to put out into paper like what you're really, even what your conflicts are, because when you put them there and declaring that it's possible to have this amazing vision, somehow things seem to organize themselves so that a lot of these pieces come together. And that's the feedback I get from so many people who've crafted visions. And again, I like to add some pictures to any of the work that I'm doing. So my vision is that in 5 years, 500 women will have emerged, connected, and co-conspired, and will transform the world of work for mission-oriented women. I will have led my family and my business to be calmly and confidently binational. We will be loving, nurturing, dancing, singing powerful unit. We will transatlantic effortlessly and develop and maintain roots and connections creatively. My family will know a woman who is present and a nurturer of their evolving selves and who causes supportive communities to sprout up wherever we go. So I don't know how you all feel about that, but when I read that, I get so excited. I get goosebumps, and I'm like, if I can really make this happen, this will be, a life well lived, and it really resonates with me. So when you read your vision, that's how it should feel. It should feel like, yes, this is the life I'm designing, and it's so wonderful, so exciting. And that again gets you back to that sense of purpose, restores your energy, and gives you a sense of control about who you are and what you want. So the next thing that is really helpful is to do some work clarifying your strengths. So I could do a whole session on just strengths, but essentially research shows that we're all happier, more motivated, do better work in all areas of our lives when we focus on working and leading from our strengths rather than focusing on our weaknesses, which frankly, you can develop them a little bit, but you can go a lot farther developing your strengths than you can your weaknesses, and it's also much more enjoyable. So in my Women Leaders Emerging program, we attack strengths from a couple of ways. Everyone takes the Strengths Finder 2.0 assessment, which is a book you can purchase. It's from Gallup. It's wonderful. And we all do a lot of work talking about that. And everybody collects stories from their colleagues and friends about times where they've seen times where they've seen you be at your best. And sometimes you get back examples where you had no idea they had even noticed that you had done this particular thing. Or even sometimes you didn't even remember that you did something, but someone else notices and really admires how you approach something that you're not even aware was a big deal, because sometimes working from your strengths, you're sort of used to it, so you don't think of it as anything special. But when you're thinking about living a purposeful life, which really restores your energy and reduces burnout, spending as much time, if you're really busy, if you're spending most of that time working from your strengths, you're going to feel a lot better. So I really recommend doing some work on strengths clarifying. So then in this, when you're doing a chapter design here, this is like doing your own strategic plan, this whole document I'm sharing with you. For the next 3 months, I decided that the strengths I want to lead from are my maximizer, activator, and connectedness strengths. And then I took some time to think about, well, what do I mean by that? Why is it important for me to lead with this strength? And what does it look like if I, attack this project using this strength, right? So you're really thinking not only about your strengths, but how you want to apply them and how you want to develop them. And that really puts you in the driver's seat when it comes to thinking about how you're developing yourself and how you are organizing your life around your strengths. And there's not a single project that you can work on that you can't tweak the way you're working on it to make it play to your strengths a bit more and be more intentional about that. So then one more, I've got 2 more elements of internal. What restores your energy? So this is really just a question to ask yourself so that you have a good working list and a go-to activity. So ask yourself these two questions. What energizing activity can you realistically fit into your life? So what never fails to pick you up? What never fails to make you feel better and to refresh you? And then knowing that, what can you realistically do? What can you realistically fall back on when you're low energy or not feeling so great? Or just as a habit that you want to build into a regular. And the other big question that I work with my clients is, what stops you from engaging in these activities that really help you? And a lot of the time the answer is, well, I don't have enough time to do it like I used to do it, so I just don't do it. And so looking at it with a new lens of, well, now with this life and this chapter, let's rethink how to approach these energizing things. And maybe it's something entirely new, or maybe it's an adaptation to what once used to be your go-to thing. So, but knowing what it is, what's your main tool to go back to re-energize. And then finally, with all of this is coming up with some goals. And goals people get tripped up on. So I just want to give you a few hints about goals. So goals transform your inner knowing and self-awareness into concrete action. They can be anything. A goal can be a question you want to set out to answer for yourself in the next 3 months. A goal could be a habit you want to form. It could be a transition you want to make. It could be progress towards a milestone. It could be connections or relationships you'd like to develop. What goals simply are, they are choices that put us into action to bring who we are in alignment with what our missions are and closer to the vision that we're creating for ourselves. And another great way to think about coming up with goals is to just get out a big piece of paper and list all of your big questions that you have about who you are and what you want, and then to organize them into categories. Often those categories you can easily turn into a goal statement. And so I'll just share with you up on the screen. A good format for goals that I like to use is, left-hand column, what are my goals? Middle column, how will I know if I'm making progress? Or how will I know if I've achieved this goal? Sometimes it's really concrete, measure, and sometimes it's a feeling that you have that you can describe here. And then finally, what are the internal and external supports that I can set up? And that's referring to everything that's in this presentation. What strengths can I rely on? What values am I leaning on here? How is this inspired by my mission? And then external supports, which is what I'm going to go into right now. So we've talked about internal resources, and now we're going to switch over to external resources, specifically relationships, strategy, accountability systems and support systems, and having mentors, champions, and allies. So in Women Leaders Emerging, one of the activities we do is we give everybody a series of a bunch of different types of maps. This is one of them. This is a community map. But all of the maps have our participants think very intentionally about the relational aspects and the community aspects of their lives, because these are the fundamental external support systems that all of us have. So this particular map is one that anybody could do. And what it requires you to do is dump onto a piece of paper or a PowerPoint slide, however you like to do your thinking, all the different communities that you are a part of, or have once been a part of, or hope to be a part of, and use a coding system to signify how strong your existing commitment is, how strong your desire is to be part of that community. And what this reveals to people is is choices that you can make about communities that you invest your time in. And again, you think about this in a chapter, because sometimes a community could be really important to you and you could code it that way on your map. But right now it has to take a back seat because of your other priorities. And making that choice about where you're prioritizing, even if you've already been doing it subconsciously, but doing it consciously is very freeing, and often releases you of some guilt and some weight and heaviness of feeling like obligation to communities that really are important to you, but you don't feel like you have time for. And instead of just sitting with that guilt, you're actually putting it on paper, saying, okay, this is important to me, but it's not my focus. These are my focus. Another thing that sometimes happens, especially if you're new to an area, is that when you start to do this, it can be really upsetting if you feel really very little connection to any community, especially if you're a really community-oriented person. And that's okay. I know the first time I did a community map, that was my experience, and I found it really, really upsetting, but it was so good to know how upsetting it felt to feel so disconnected, and that it really became a priority for me to connect. So this is one of about 7 maps that we have. Some of them are more professional. Some of them are focusing on, the kinds of relationships we want to develop within the workplace to develop influence. But in terms of purpose, I thought this was the best map to show you about who you are in relation to the communities that are important to you. And along with that, there's this other tool called a positioning statement that you can create with your map. A positioning statement is really an internal statement. It's a statement about who you are and what you want with a target audience. So thinking about the particular community or set of communities that you want to know you. So it's essentially developing in words how you want to be known. What do you want to be known for? And what are you looking for from that community? What are you trying to gain from that community? How can people help you? So just putting that down into words will help you deepen your relationship with those communities and help you know how to introduce yourself, how to make some pretty powerful asks within that community. So up on the screen here, you can read one of my positioning statements, and hopefully it will be clear to you kind of what I'm looking for and the kinds of people who I might want to share this information with. So positioning statements also help you do the thinking about who you are and what you want so that you can have really organic, natural conversations when you're in the context of these communities. So another external tool to help you live with purpose is to come up with a strategy. And so I'll just leave you to think about what planning tools work best for you. Within Women Leaders Emerging, they actually work on this very document that I'm sharing with you. And then every month, they have to do a monthly plan to help them take the big goals and break them down into monthly goals and think about which values and which strengths they're putting to work and what questions they have. So that's a very structured group of 6 people with a coach who practice living this way for a full 7 months, and they have a built-in support system. So what are your systems? Who can you bring into your life to help you live with purpose, to help you use some of these tools, and then having this all on paper and thinking about, now that you have this, how do I get from A to B? That's the strategy. So that's external. And then this slide shows the different types of other kind of external supports to help you live with purpose. And I've given you some examples of what I mean by support and accountability systems, mentors, champions, and allies, and resources and assets. And this one I think is really important. Sometimes we don't remember how many resources that we have to help us live with purpose. So it's worth doing a little brainstorming. So some examples here are just knowing how much time off you have to work with, how much out of work time or how much out of parenting time, or how much could you create? What are some assets available to you to live your purpose based on where you live? Who are some of the people that you know? What are kind of the networks that you might have access to if you wanted to tap into them? And who are you friends with that might be able to help you work towards a specific goal of yours? So just to live with purpose, you need to bring other people into your life and let them know what you're up to so that you can have the support that you need, especially if your life is pretty busy, to follow through on what you set out to do. and how you're setting out to live. So with that, that is the Conspire coaching approach to living with purpose. And I would love to hear any of your questions, any of your comments. And if you're interested to learn more about any of this, I would encourage you to be in touch with me. So Alex, that's my presentation.
Thank you, Jen. And I'm going to show Jen's contact information slide here so that if you are interested in getting in touch with her about coaching opportunities, you can certainly contact her at all the various forms of communication here, as well as through social media. And she's also provided the link or web address for a free Facebook group where she does provide some coaching advice there. So I would encourage you to reach out to her. I would also note that she is currently filling slots for her next coaching circle through the Women Leaders Emerging program. And I know that she has one slot left. So if you're interested in participating in that, please, reach out to her, through email or phone contact. And we are a little bit over on time, so I'm not going to actually open it up for questions. However, if you do have a question that you'd like to pose, feel free to reach out to Jen directly, particularly if it's on a coaching topic. And if it's about anything else from any of the other webinars in the series, feel free to reach out to us at the email address that's listed here, info@momitrackfitness.com. And as far as the remainder of the series, we have 2 more sessions, so we hope that you'll join us. The next one is next Wednesday. I will be presenting that session. It will be on exercise and thinking through some practical ways to fit it into a busy schedule. And then we will wrap up the series in 2 weeks with a session on nutrition. And we will have Cheryl Harris from Harris Whole Health, and she's a registered dietitian, and she will be discussing food as nourishment. So thanks again for joining us today, and have a great afternoon.